Good evening, friends. Meeting again with the philosophy session. And yesterday we have finished the first chapter from Kant's philosophy, The Seek. Kant has started with the first aphorism and its philosophy by explaining only the two words, the sick, and he has devoted the whole concept about what is sickness, which is considered in homeopathy, and what is real sickness. And for that purpose, he tried to explain the concept of human being. He tried to explain the internal human and external human. The internal human, where the mind, specifically the will and understanding, how it plays a very important role in the state of health as well as in the state of disease. That also he explained. And reflection of it appears at the physical level, expressing itself in the form of disease. Actually, it is the expression of the disease which happens at the dynamic level, at the vital principle or vital energy which is disturbed, because of which it reflects it externally. So there is always something prior to the disease, and that prior always hidden in the dynamic human being. That concept he has thoroughly explained, because of which it is quite easy to understand exactly what is the sickness and how to tackle the sickness, and where one should aim his treatment. So our treatment should be aimed at the human being and not on just a pathology or the end products of the disease. So these are the things which we have learned in last lecture. We have to start with the next chapter, the highest ideal of cure. The chapter second from the Stuart Jetty Kent, and his philosophy regarding the aphorism which has been given in sixth edition of Organon of Medicine. What he wants to explain, that he explains over there. So just go with the lecture number 2, the highest ideal of cure. The subject this morning relates to the cure, to what the nature of cure is. It is stated that in the second paragraph of the Organon that the highest ideal of cure is rapid, gentle, and permanent restoration of the health, or removal and annihilation of the disease in its whole extent, in the shortest, most reliable, and most harmless way, on easily comprehensible principles. For the students, this aphorism should be mugged up as it is. If anyone asks you the definition of ideal cure, this aphorism one should not miss. It should be mugged up. First aphorism should be there on the tip of your tongue. Ninth aphorism, the vital force definition, should be there in your mind. The 26th aphorism, nature's law of cure or therapeutic law of cure, it should be as it is. You should know. In the seventh aphorism, the totality of the symptoms definition is given. That also you have to remember it as it is. Definition should be a definition. That's why one should not miss the words over there. So this is also a second aphorism, is also one of the important aphorism one should know thoroughly. And what Hahnemann have defined is very important. He has not said how the cure is. Highest ideal of cure. Ideal means what? What is there in your mind? What is there in your thoughts? What is there in your ideal mind? That is what he explains. And it should be rapid, gentle, and permanent. Annihilation means to remove it completely. Most reliable word that he has used. Why he says most reliable? To whom you rely? You rely on only on the persons to whom you know properly. You can rely on homeopathic medicine because you know them properly, because they are proved on healthy human beings. That's why they are more reliable. So this explanation of this aphorism is nothing but the philosophy, Kant's philosophy behind that. Instead of explaining this from my mouth, let us see what the Kant says. So what he says, if you were to ask the physician who had not been trained in homeopathy of what is cure consists, his mind would only revolve around the idea of the disappearance of the pathological state. If an eruption on the skin where the given substance, if an eruption on the skin where the given instance, the disappearance of the eruptions from the skin under his treatment would be called a cure. If hemorrhoids, the removal of these would be called a cure. If constipation is there, the opening of the bowels would be called a cure. If some affection of knee joint is there, an amputation above the knee would be considered a cure, or if it were an acute disease and the patient did not die, it would be considered a cure for the disease. So what he says, if you look towards the allopathic person or a practitioner, how he looks towards the disease and how he looks towards the cure. In the first chapter, he has explained the concept of allopathy, that they consider the disease as a local. So if there is an eruption on the skin, it is a local disease, so remove it by any means, either by just local application, either by cautery, either by surgery, whatever may be the local measure requires, you remove that, that is cure. If patient is having any specific entity, for example, he has explained over there hemorrhoids, piles, and removal of that piles, they call it as a cure by local means. This is what their thought is. Last example which he has given was very good, that if patient does not die in acute disease, if he recovers, that is what is called as a cure. Those are the concepts with the old school. Hahnemann says this is not, Hahnemann's concept of understanding cure is not that. There is a lot of difference. Because disease is not just removal of the symptoms, disease where it happens internally at the dynamic level, it should disappear first. If it disappears, then it is called as cure. And that's why what he says. And that is really the idea of the patient as it derived from the physician. The patient will very often wonder at the great skill of the physician in removing any eruptions from the skin, and will go back again when graver manifestation, the tissue changes threatening death have come on as a consequence, and will say to the doctor, "You so wonderfully cured me. Please keep your mics off." The patient will vary from wonder at the great skill of the physician in removing an eruption from the skin, and will go back again when the graver manifestation, the tissue changes, threatening death, have come on as a consequence, and will say to the doctor, "You so wonderfully cured my skin disease. Why cannot you cure me of my liver trouble?" But this very scientific ignorant doctor has made a failure. He has driven what was upon the surface and harmless into the innermost phrenics of the economy, and the patient is going to die as a result of scientific ignorance. So what he is explaining, he has given simple example. If you remove eczema from the skin by local means, only the axis of the disease is changed, because you have not cured the disease at the internal level. Disease is there at the internal most layer. It is there at the dynamic plane. And unless and until you cure that, patient will not be cured. What you have done by local application, you have changed the axis of the disease from less important organ to more important organ. You have just shifted the angle of the disease. The voice is clear now? Is it okay or is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Yeah. So by local means you are not treating the patient, you have not get the ideal cure. What you have get is the palliation followed by a suppression, transformation of the organ from transformation of the disease from less important organ to a more important organ, to which they considers it as a disease, to which they considers it as a cure. And if it happens, you develop more dangerous disorders with which patient may die. So skin symptoms gets vanished if it enters into the brain. It can produce epilepsy. It can produce any lesion. It can enter into the heart, produce there any lesion. It can enter inside GI tract, produce any lesion. So it transforms from less important organ to the more important organ. So this is what is called as suppression. It is not at all a cure, but the old school practitioner considers this as a cure. There are three distinct points involved in this paragraph, and these must be brought out. First point is restoring the health and not the removing of the symptoms is the first point. So he has mentioned very specifically the first point in this definition is restoration of the health. What is restoration of health? Restoration of health means a person should gain that health. According to the homeopathy, we define what is health. It is the when mind, body, and soul runs in a perfect harmony with the help of vital force. It is called to be health. You have to bring back the disease into this perfectly healthy state. So restoring the health and not the removing of the symptom is the first point. Restoring health has in the view of establishment of the order in the sick human being. Removing symptom has not in view a human being. Removing the constipation, the hemorrhoids, the white swelling of the knee, the skin disease, or any local manifestation, or particular sign of the disease, or even removal of the group of symptoms does not have in view the restoration of health of the whole economy of the man. So where he clearly explains, just removing the symptom superficially is not the cure. If you remove it, but patient is not feeling well inside because he is diseased inside. If you treat that disease and then gradually the external manifestation disappears and patient again performs in a state of health and trinity is again maintained, that is what is called as an health. And this is most important point, first point in this. If the removal of the symptoms is not followed by the restoration of health, it cannot be called a cure. Very important thing which he has mentioned. So if a patient comes to you with a typhoid and you give him antibiotic, next day fever is not there, but patient doesn't have strength to wake up from the bed, he is not called to be cured because he is not again in the harmony. So this is what one has to understand. We learned in our last study that the sole duty of the physician is to heal the sick, and therefore it is not his merely duty to remove the symptoms, to change the aspect of symptoms, the appearance of the disease image, imagining that he has thereby established order. What a simple-minded creature he must be. What a groveler in the muck. ग्रॉवेलरचा अर्थ आहे लोटांगण घालणे. ग्रॉवेलर म्हणजे लोटांगण घालणे. मक, ग्रॉवेलर इन द मक, मक म्हणजे उकिरडा, घाण. मायर, and मायर he must be, मायर म्हणजे चिकन. When he can meditate upon doing such things, even a moment. So what he explains over there, you have to understand first what is sickness. Once you understand sickness is internal, then you treat the internal man and not just removal of the superficial symptoms by local means. So removal of piles is not the cure. Removal of the skin eruption by local means is not the cure. Removal of or amputation of the extremity is not the cure. Because where you have considered disease as a local, but disease is not local, disease is inside. And one must consider that disease which is at the dynamic plane, explaining through the symptomatology, and that totality as a whole you have to treat. It is not a single symptom. How different his actions would be if he but considered that every violent change which he produces in the aspect of disease aggravates the interior nature of the disease, aggravates the sickness of the man, and brings about the increase of suffering within him. If you treat it locally, just what happens is just transformation of the disease from those less important organ to very, very, very important organ. It transforms from the skin to the heart. It transforms from the skin to the brain or to the any internal organ. And this is what happens if you treat it locally. The patient should be able to realize by his feelings and continue to say he is being restored to health whenever the symptom is removed. So when you treat the patient with the help of medicines, patient should feel internally healthy. The answer should be, doctor, I am feeling really good. I am feeling, as a general, he feels, yes, doctor, since you have started medicines to me, I am feeling absolutely better. When the remedy has acted internally, it definitely produces a change at the internal level. It means that cure has happened at the central place. It should happen. If it happens, then there is no fear of separation. Then it never transforms from the less important organ to more important organ. So remedy should act at the center. The patient should be able to realize by his feelings and continue to say that he is being restored to the health whenever the symptom is removed. There should be a corresponding inward improvement. What is it? There should be corresponding inward improvement whenever an outward symptom has been caused to disappear. And this will be the true whenever disease has been displayed by order. So whenever you have prescribed for your patient and patient is feeling internally very good, at the same time his external symptoms are disappearing, then your remedy has acted at the center, your remedy has acted where it should act. So the difference between the old school concept and the homeopathy regarding the cure, he is trying to explain, and he has explained only one point, that restoration of health is a must. That is what is called as an ideal cure. Now he turns towards the second point. So just on your book, first write restoring health, that just mention over there. First point. Second point, now he starts. The perfection of a cure consists then first in restoring health, and this is to be done promptly, mildly, and permanently. Second point is promptly, mildly, and permanently. What is promptly? Immediately. It should be as early as possible, mildly, without causing any harm to the patient, and permanently. It should not be for time being. You have taken the crocin and you have felt better for 3 4 hours, and again fever comes. That is not a permanent restoration. So, second, which is the second point? What is it? Promptly, mildly, and permanently, which is the second point. The cure must be quick or speedy. It must be gentle, and it must be continuous and permanent. Whenever an outward symptom has been caused to disappear by violence, as by cathartics to remove, the constipation, it cannot be called mild or permanent, even if it is prompt. So if patient is having constipation, if you have given the purgatives, cathartics means purgatives, Rechak. If you give a purgative to the patient, what will happen? It will promptly act. Patient will pass the bowels. But in what way? It will damage internal flora of the intestine. It will cause damage. It will cause trouble. So it is not mild and gentle. So these things which he tries to explain in a thorough manner. So whenever an outward symptom has been caused to disappear by violence, as by cathartic to remove the constipation, it cannot be called mild or permanent, even if it is prompt. Whenever violent drugs are restored to there is nothing mild in the action or reaction that must follow. So if the patient comes to you with very severe pain and you have given a painkiller to the patient as an anti-inflammatory, patient consumes, his pain reduces for time being, but he starts getting acid peptic trouble, burning in stomach. This is not called as mild and gentle. Violent drugs always cause a damage at the same time producing palliation. At the time this second paragraph of the Organon was written, physicking was not so mild as at the present day. So when Hahnemann have written this second paragraph, at that time, whatever the treatments which were followed at that time were dangerous. They were not as mild comparatively today they are. They were very dangerous. Bloodletting was the treatment. He has given the examples. Bloodletting, sweating, etc. were in vogue at the time of Hahnemann wrote these lines. Those were very, very, very marked methods of treatment. There was one person called as Brassu. Brassu has developed physiological system of medicine, and he used to take the cuts on the body to remove the blood. And he said that if you remove the blood, disease will disappear. Such hazardous methods were present at that time. Medicine has changed somewhat in its appearance. Physicians are now using sugar-coated pills and contriving to make medicines appear tasteful or tasteless or tasteful. They are using concentrated alkaloids. So now medicine has changed. Now you have the sugar-coated tablets. So patient feels better while taking them. But when it goes inside, it causes little bit trouble when coating has disappeared because it is given in material doses. Ultimately, it will going to work in the stomach or intestine. Then it gets dissolved. It starts acting by its own way. But none of these things have been done because of discovery of any principle. But none of these things have been done because of the discovery of any principle. Bloodletting and sweating were not abandoned on account of principle. For the old men deprecate their disuse and often say that they hope the time will come when they can again go back into the lancet. Deprecate म्हणजे तीव्र नापसंती, धिक्कार. Not deprecate means they are not interested, not like the things. Lancet means pointed surgical knife. Lancet. So these were the methods. Bloodletting by taking the cuts on the body. In giving the medicine which induces lot of sweating. The cocaine, sulfonal, and numerous other modern concentrated products of the manufacturing chemists are extremely dangerous and their election and reactions unknown. So these are the medicines which are there in the modern science, or they are there in the old school, and those are really dangerous, causes more damage to the internal human being. The chemical discoveries of the petroleum have opened field for destruction to the human intelligence, to the understanding, and to the will, because these products are slowly and insidiously violent. So see, he is explaining in detail all those products which acts on the human body, the petroleum products, they gradually damages the brain, they gradually damages the basically the will of the person. So they are very violent drugs. When drugs were used that were instantly dangerous and violent, the action was manifest. It showed upon the surface, and common people saw it. But the patient of the present day goes through more dangerous drugging because it destroys the mind. And this happens many times. Look towards the patient who are taking a lot of medicine and you find it out with the memory. They comes to you, doctor, what has happened? I don't know. I'm forgetting many things. I'm in confusion many times. I could not take decision. His mind is becoming disturbed. The apparent benefits produced by these drugs are never permanent. Apparent means visible, दिसणारे. So what is it? Apparent benefits produced by these drugs are never permanent. So whatever the things which it produces, they are temporary of use. They may in some cases seems to be permanent, but then it is because upon the economy has been engrafted a new and most insidious disease, more subtle means sukshma, and more tenacious than the manifestation that was upon the external. And it is because of this tenacity that the original symptoms remains away. So many times patient feels this has been cured. There is no recurrence of the disease. But why not recurrence? Recurrence is not there because it has transformed from the less important organ to somewhere else, and then it has started as a new disease. It is not new disease. It is just shifting from the less important organ to a more important organ. So this is not called as a cure. The disease in its nature or essay has not been changed. It is still there, causing the internal destruction of the man, but its manifestations had been changed. So what has changed? It has shifted from less important organ to more important organ. And that there has been added to this natural disease, a drug disease more serious than the former. And what he says, when you treat such patients with local means, with knife, with bloodletting, with removal of the organ, what will happen? Only thing that disease will shift from the less important organ to more important organ and causes more and more damage to the human health. So this concept, he is making it clear, though all those drugs are not at all gentle. They are the drugs which will cause a damage to the human health. They are more dangerous in its phase. Homeopathic drugs are not like that. That's why he has specifically utilized three words together: permanently, mildly, promptly, mildly, and permanently. So it is a gentle way through which the cure must happen. I think we'll stop over here and we'll continue with this in tomorrow's session, and be there for the session, because these are the very important perfect thoughts as explained by the Kent, and with which our concept of understanding sickness, understanding the disease, understanding the cure becomes clear in our mind. So my suggestion to all of you, that don't miss lectures. uh, and if you miss by chance, it will be uploaded on the YouTube channel, and it will be visible for you. And since yesterday we have started, tenacious means it is going from the from that part, and it is spreading outside also. It is going. It is never limited to that particular part. It is tenacious. It is going from part that part and increasing in its size is tenacious. So we have started discussing about the materia medica daily. This first I will going to discuss all drugs from the second year VHMS students. Those will be the remedies and there will be a practical as well as clinical aspect I will going to share with Alan's keynotes. So first, all remedies from Alan's keynotes I will going to share at 9:30 session. Be there, ask your friends to join that session, so that it will be a beneficial from both point of view: practical, theoretical, clinical. All aspects will be cleared in that lecture. So Allen's Keynotes is a wonderful book with which we can learn and recollect the materia medica very easily. So don't miss an opportunity to learn the materia medica, which is called to be a more practical, because 32 years of experience I am utilizing over there. Same password and ID. It's free for everyone. So this same password and ID, and on group I used to share same thing. It will be the same for this lecture and same for the 9:30 lecture. So it is a good thing for everyone. Ask your friends to join and meet at 9:30. Today I will going to share Euphrasia from Allen's Notes. So it looks very simple, good remedy. What is there to learn in Euphrasia? But there are many things one must learn from Euphrasia. And that's why I'm going to share this remedy in today's session. Be there sharp at 9:30. Any queries are there, we'll have a chat. Otherwise, I'll conclude. So we'll conclude and we'll meet 9:30 today. Thanks a lot.